And thank you so much. Those of you that are out there, you're on fire for life. That's what Howard Thurman says. Stop asking what the world needs and ask yourself what makes you come alive. Because that's really what the world needs. The world needs or can use some more people that are totally alive. I'm Temple Hayes. It's my pleasure to be with you. Thank you. I'm sure you're going to be so inspired today by Maetreyii Ma. She is a mystic, a divine energy. She is able to tell people how to live in both worlds, the world of vision and esoteric and energy, and also how to walk with both your feet on the ground. I just love that. And I'm just so happy that you're here today. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you. It's wonderful to be here with you.
Oh, it's just such a pleasure. And the light force coming through your eyes is just so beautiful. Yes. So, anyway, you've been quite busy because you've been writing a memoir about your life and your journey. And take us anywhere you want to go today. I just want to hear all about you.
Okay. Well, I have been writing my memoir. I came to a point where I really felt a deep inner calling to share my journey with other people. And so I have written my memoir, which is Into the Heart of the Infinite, a spiritual memoir of an extraordinary mystical experience or mystical journey. And the reason I wrote it is because I feel that, a lot of times we're helped in our own journey by hearing other people's stories, by hearing the
Of course.
other people have gone through their struggles, their realizations, their mystical experiences. And it's sometimes nice maybe to hear the story of a Western woman rather than some Indian yogi or
Hmm.
somebody who's in the past, but of what happens for real people present here now, real ordinary people. And how, as an ordinary person, we can have extraordinary experiences of divine presence. And we can have spiritual awakening, a spiritual opening now in our lives now as ordinary American men and women.
Hmm.
So I decided to write my journey to hopefully help others to believe in themselves and their own journey and what comes for them in that process.
That's beautiful. Well, when did it start? Like, when did it matter to you? I mean, you were in school, you were in high school, you were, going down the journey that we call life, an Americanized life. And
Yes.
what was a wake up, a moment, a breakup, a breakout? What occurred that brought you to this space
Yeah.
of exploration and seeking? Because I've found in my years on this earth, there's not to create division at all, but there's some people that they're just glad they're born. They celebrate their birthdays. They get a 35-year pin. They have wonderful children and a happy marriage, and they go, okay, and then I'm going to some type of afterlife. And then there's some of us that are deep, contemplative. It feels like it's our job to always bring more ideas, possibilities in our own evolution and show how we are surviving and thriving out loud, if you will. But so what is it that brought you to that bridge of understanding?
Well, it's a lifelong journey, Temple, and it started when I was a child. I grew up with a lot of exposure to nature and a love of animals and plants and a feeling of connectedness with them.
Mhm.
And then when I was in my uh, late childhood, early teens, I began to feel this divine presence. First, it started like I would just, if I was stressed out at school and things as a kid, I'd come and hug trees, and I would feel this incredible calmness come from the
Mm,
trees,
mhm.
and all of my problems would float away like clouds. It was really
Yes.
beautiful. And then I began to feel this divine presence near me, and it felt it felt like a really holy being, like the only thing I knew at that time that was anything like that, because I was a part of American culture, it
Yeah.
was Christ. All of Jesus
Mhm.
was the only figure I knew of like that, that was really a holy presence. But there was no name, no guidance, no talking, just this presence. I don't know how to say it exactly, but I could really feel it. And when I was in that presence, I just felt so much love and attraction to this holy being, this holy presence. And that's all I wanted, was to be near this holy presence. I was sad, why am I in this strange material world when this divine being, why am I not born near this divine being? And
Uh,
it was a struggle at first. And then, I got into my teen years and, teen things, and forgot all about it, and then went on. But then the next opening came when I was in my early 20s, and I tried psychedelics, back in the late 60s, early 70s, when that was a popular thing, tune in, drop in and drop out, and, those days. And it really helped me to open up to divine presence again, but this time in the universal wholeness, the bliss of divine presence. Like, I would just look at something and it would go out into the macrocosm and the microcosm, and just sort of, my mind would just kind of go into the bliss of presence.
yes.
And it would be very beautiful. And so in that way, that really opened that divine existence again for me. And, I had my struggles, and I crashed and burned on that path, and realized it could not take me where I wanted to go eventually. It was just a look, see through the door, but not a path through. And then I began yogic meditation, and went to India to see my physical guru. But that was only after I met my inner guide, my inner guru, Baba, in my meditation practice. Again, this divine holy presence began to be there. But this time it gave me a name, and the name was Baba. And this presence began to guide me. And there were times when, like, every word would be like a jewel dropped into my mind, like the facets of divine qualities, like perfect love, and then perfect justice, and then
Mm.
perfect beauty, and it just, like, each one would just destroy the mind, just like
Mhm.
in the profound existence of these divine qualities. And I would just feel divine bliss. And um, so those types of experiences began to expand my consciousness. And then I was guided to go to India and meet my physical guru. So my husband at the time and I bought one-way tickets to India on some dilapidated, we didn't have much money, on some dilapidated Arab airlines that, anyway, that's a story in my book.
Mhm.
And I met my guru. And I think that all of this, like, I can't say it was one thing, but I think the process of transformation is one that goes through a series of experiences. At least it did for me. And then years later, and years of this inner guidance, I really felt a guidance to teach, and that was probably the final stage in the transformation process for me. And then teaching, and of course, the process is an ongoing one, of opening up. But
Of course.
it's transformation really is something that requires. It isn't just a transition from one thing to another. It's a transformation of a state of being. And transformation often requires a deconstruction of what has been in order to reconstruct at a higher level.
Mhm.
And so what I found in this process is that there were some hard times, doubt and fear, self-doubt, you know, how can this happen to me? I'm just an ordinary person. And, doubt of my own sanity. I'm listening to inner guidance. What does that mean? Am I crazy?
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
all of those kinds of things. I went through a lot of that. And hard times at times when I crashed and burned with taking LSD. That was a very difficult time when I felt there was no hope, and I got really, um, I felt terrible because I didn't know about meditation. I didn't know that the divine states I was experiencing on LSD were real. Then I took this course in Eastern philosophy and read the Bhagavad Gita, and I'm going, oh no, this is real. Other people experience this. They experienced it thousands of years ago. This isn't just a drug. This is a real thing.
It's a real thing.
This is, you know, and
Mhm.
those kinds of moments of real struggle and
Oh,
real
yeah.
pain.
Oh, yeah. Well,
And
that's why in your voice that's one of the reasons why in your voice there's such depth, and it's felt, it comes through on Restream, if you will. I wanna thank all of you making your comments. Hello, Miracle and Linda. We have, friends visiting us and tuning in, and if you have questions, please know that, Maetreyii Ma is here and available. If you want me to ask her a question, just put it in the comment section, because it's so wonderful to have her presence and have her energy. It is absolutely it's like you were saying. It's absolutely fascinating how there's such a plan in motion. I don't know that it's predestiny, but it amazes me how we're delayed in one section, and then if we don't fight it and kick the door, and then we wind up over here somehow. I mean, that was, I love what you were saying, because when I was a kid, I was talking to the divine too. I couldn't say that to anybody as a Southern Baptist because you weren't allowed to do such things.
right,
Nobody could do that. What is wrong with you? But I would be
preach.
on a tree. When you said out there at the tree, I was like, I might have seen you, just on that tree and in nature and loving all life. And I'm still that. I'm still that. My physical body has changed, but I'm still that girl. I'm still that joy. I'm still that love, all that. And I
That's
weep sometimes for the disrespect of nature, the disassociation with the love of what the divine has created. But that being said, I was delayed going to college, and in that delay, I wound up being affiliated with a European company, and it was like they're like, "We've never seen any other country aside from America that has all these 4 churches on every corner, and what is this with you people?" And it wasn't necessarily that they set out to make us wrong, they were just like, "What is all this about?" Because they had this older, ancient way of living life, way of looking at life, the judgment, and it should be the opposite if you have all this spiritual awareness or religion or whatever. But they were just like blown away with all the judgment, and because they're so like, it's just a body and it's this and it's that. But the point is, it woke me up,
yeah.
and somebody brought me the book The Way as a Man Thinketh. It didn't all happen right away because I had some drinking and going to jail and things to do for a bit. I could have ran into you. Maybe you were there in the cell next door. I had to do some of that first. I had to be the prodigal son and go out and party and be crazy,
Yeah.
and all that before I could come back home and go, no, that's not my path. But that being said, I mean, oh my gosh, the idea of what wasn't working out. If I think if more and more people could just see that and step back of, it's not working out the way it is, and as I've known it, and like you said, that if you don't rush that middle part, like becoming a
Right.
butterfly, the new
That's
journey reveals itself. Yes.
exactly. And that's the
Right.
process of transformation, which it sounds like you really classically went through. Like you really had to break down some things and come to a point
Mhm.
where this isn't working, and you reevaluated and you came to a new level of consciousness and functioning.
I just don't know where I would be had I not had that Eastern exposure. Probably dead. I think it's safe to say dead, and then meeting people that, believed in psychics and past life regression and Sai
Right. So it
Baba, and,
to
just it's
yeah,
like, "Oh, this is my world. This makes
exactly.
sense to me. This is it right here."
I had that
I mean,
same experience, yeah. It's like it felt so confining, and that's why when I sort of crashed and burned and realized that LSD wasn't really the way,
right,
then I felt like I'm just stuck in this material society, and it's so oppressive.
right.
It's so oppressive to my spirit that if I have 2.4 children and have a nice house in the suburbs and do all the things you're supposed to do, and that's life, I went,
Right,
that's not really what I want. That's so without something more. I mean,
exactly.
I in fact did have the house and all that,
Oh, yeah,
but that's not the point. There was something more there. And
right.
without that something more, without that sense of meaning in life, Viktor Frankl talks about how we really need meaning in life. And
Mhm.
if we don't have meaning and purpose, life becomes sometimes it becomes hard to handle. It just why am I doing what I'm doing? What is
Yeah,
this about? And it can it has to have that joy and that purpose and that connection to the divine for me is really where that light and for me the divine is love, is the essence
mhm.
of love. And it's expressed in all the love we feel for other people, for all the love we receive, all the love we give, uh, and all the animals and the plants and all the life, because it's all part of one unitary whole. It's
Oh, yeah.
all part of the divine manifestation in this world.
Mhm.
And so when we open our hearts, not just our ideas about things, but open our hearts. And I can tell you've been there with opening the heart.
Oh,
And that,
yeah, a few times.
yeah, and
As you could
what?
tell when we were first talking, I'm in the throes of it, even right now. But, yeah, definitely, and I just wanna acknowledge Janine, who's talking about nature and animals, how they speak through her. I wanna have her on the show sometime to tell some of her stories about animals, and we have Greg from New Zealand, tuning in on holiday, so
No,
anyway, just grateful for the energy field that's going on. I just like to bring people into the room, which is why I like this format, is because
yeah.
I feel like it's interactive and more than just talking at, that kind of thing. Well, even recently, Maetreyii Ma. Um, I was relocating. We were looking for a home. We just relocated 2 years ago to California from the East Coast of all our lives. And
Well,
so, it's a process. It's a process, right? And where you might initially, because it just felt comfortable, choose to live. We lived right outside of Montecito, California, and it was like it was okay. The thing in California is finding places where you can have lots of pets. So anyway, to shorten the story, I was going to look at a home, and I saw a hummingbird, and I said to them, I said, "I hope that there will be hummingbirds where we're going," because I really love, I mean, the whole, medicine totem of a hummingbird, because
yeah.
that's where I am, is more and more detachment, more and more of this isn't the only flower that's going to have nectar on it. You know what I mean? This one, I don't have to just hang on to this one. For some
Yeah,
of us, it's not so easy to let go. I'm loyal to people and loyal to communities and stuff. So anyway,
yes.
I'm really into that hummingbird energy. But anyway, to shorten this story, I pull up and to see this home, and I knew it. I knew it was the one. I could feel it in my soul. And the guy met me there in front of the garage, and I said, "I don't even want to go in the house yet. I want to see the backyard." So we're
Does
we're walking we're walking in the backyard, and he said, "Oh, and all these vines," because we're in a cul-de-sac and there's not a house beside it. It's just all just vines on a wall. It's quite lovely. He said, "Oh, we don't trim the vines because there's hummingbird nests all in them. And by the way, the people who lived here before trained the hummingbirds to eat out of their hand." I went, "I'll take it." I don't need to see the inside, but I give thanks that we have this ability to know it's all connected.
yeah, the intuition
Yeah,
to
it's
to know.
all connected. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. And that's maybe a little of connection to that unitary whole,
yes,
because the more connection there is, the more, you live in harmony with life
yeah.
and in love and compassion, and your connection to the hummingbirds just reminds me of that, connecting in harmony with life and feeling that flow and then moving with that,
Hmm.
and that becomes a media for intuition.
Oh, yes.
So for me, like following the spiritual journey, following my inner guide and moving into mystical connection with the divine has been a is that's where I have found this really deep in meditative experience, and not only in meditation, just sort of falling into states at times. I have found this deep, deep love, which of the divine, which this melting into the whole that is so profound. And for me, the path has been love. It's been love of the infinite. When that love of the heart expands out to include all living beings, this
Mhm.
world, instead of, and this was when I was first on my spiritual journey, the world itself seemed like very mundane and oppressive, and I was just, I didn't like it.
Mhm.
and then
Mhm.
and then what happened through the transformation, the spiritual transformation, is those divine connected states became something so deep that there is a deep understanding that everything is within the one. And with that, over time, has really become the non-dual experience, that there is nothing outside of that unitary whole.
Mm.
And when you feel that every person, every plant, every animal, everything, even the material objects are, and the rocks and furniture, everything is
Mhm.
a manifestation within the consciousness of being within the one eternal love that is all made of this consciousness. And I think physics is starting to go in that direction, um, that it's all made of consciousness. It's all made of
Absolutely.
one substance. And so when you go into essence, when I would connect with this essence and feel that everything is the one, there's nothing outside of it, then
Mhm.
this world transforms from something um, mundane into something really quite beautiful,
Yeah.
because it is the embodiment. All forms are the embodiment of the one. And
Mhm.
the deep essence, no matter how far a person moves from their essence, and no matter how destructive their behavior, in their heart of hearts, in their essence, they are this love.
Mhm.
Everyone is this love. Naturally, we can get very lost and we can do very harmful things. Um,
Mhm.
but in essence, when people return to their essence and when they align with essence, they are in that alignment with divine love and divine presence.
Mhm.
And it's there inside all of us. And it's just a matter of connecting to it. And meditation, of course, is a tool, a media to get beyond the noise and drop down to connect with essence.
And even if it's just, I mean, meditation to so many people is still surprisingly a mystery,
Yeah,
right? I mean, like, what? I mean, it's everywhere you look, on YouTube, on TikTok. I mean, ways to meditate and all this.
yeah,
But, even if it's just walking, or 5 minutes of silence or closing your eyes, you can feel the whole room shift just in closing your eyes and then opening your eyes back up. It's like, oh, okay. And there's a possibility of a whole different kind of paradigm, in your own thinking. I think another thing, for me with practice is the book I read when I was 20, Illusions. And and so here's a mechanic that was this mystical, guru, Baba kind of person. Um, and it really shifted me because I've watched people like at dinner or in other settings, and they'll come across to, that's my waiter. Will you get my drink? Will you get my water? Whatever the waiter. I don't know why that started doing that. Um, Somebody's coming through right now. Look. um, so anyway, hide from, what is this? Let's go. Sorry about that. Um, well, it just wants to be there. So it's an energy field and we're gonna let it be. How's
yes,
that?
let it be.
Let it be. Anyway, that this is my waiter. Could you get me another drink? I'll have another glass of wine. That wouldn't be something I say, but I used to, or whatever. Get me. You're here to serve me, or whatever. And that book, it really taught me about embracing every person,
Yes,
every situation. And I'm not saying I'm that 24/7, but for the most part, yes. You're not just someone moving my furniture, you're my brother.
yes, exactly.
Let's break bread together. Tell me something about you I wouldn't have a way of knowing. What's a little bit about your history? What's your story? And I've found those to be some of the best moments of my life.
Isn't that beautiful? Yes,
Mhm.
yes. When you just make that connection and
Yes.
that's there.
Yes. Yes, and, we don't have to travel all over the world to have it. We can just notice the person at the checkout counter
Yeah,
and see from the eyes of heart
right.
of
Mhm.
what really matters.
Yeah, and what you're doing is being fully present in the moment.
Yes.
Being really present with the person, really there with them, and
Mhm.
opening your heart to the possibilities that might be there.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Well, it's so wonderful to sit in your energy field now. I'm of curiosity, is your family in the same practice?
Yeah, yes.
That's great.
Yeah,
That's special.
and anyway.
That's special. Now what did I do here? There we go.
There we go.
There you are. I just wanted that other to go away. I'm like, I want to see you, and so does everybody else that's on the air with us. So they are. Did they gravitate to it naturally,
I
or
My husband at the time and I have the same guru, and
okay?
so we have been on the same yogic path since our early 20s, and
Mhm.
we've been married. We've been together 50 years, so that's a long time.
That's
And we've
beautiful.
been on this path together. So, yeah, that's been a big part of it, and it's very nice to have that support. I feel that my husband is a very deep and mystical man, and so he's also a musician and a kirtan player, and he but he understands, and it's very nice to have somebody there with you who understands sort of your deep part of yourself,
Mhm.
isn't just there on the mundane level, but really understands the deep part. And it is nice when you can have a partner like that. But, it's not always possible. But the main thing is that, uh, the divine is your partner.
Yeah. Yeah.
Really is there. And you may find, like you found, that just in a total stranger, there's an amazing connection.
Hmm.
Or with animals or with plants. That just life is all around you. It's not just one person.
No.
You know,
And it is, at the end of the day, it's a partnership with oneself, isn't it?
that's right.
And how we interpret things and how we see them. So, what was the process of you writing this book? I think we put it into the notes, everyone, but I want to just mention again that it's a spiritual memoir of an extraordinary mystical journey with Maetreyii Ma, as giving her wisdom and her journey. And I can't pronounce her name quite as well as she can. It just rolls off her tongue. But I'm getting close.
I know it's a little hard.
Yeah.
So, I felt that I got guidance from my inner guru Baba to write it down in the 1990s. And fortunately, I wrote about 100 pages. And so I recorded all kinds of things that I might not remember as well now as I did then, you know. And so of my journey and what happened. And then I have felt this guidance all along that I really need to share this. And it just came to the point where it was time.
Mhm.
And I wanted to share my story. And I have received many people I know have read it and have it's been deeply meaningful to them. So it's been very rewarding to me to realize that it's doing what my intention was bringing other people into the sphere of the mystical
Yes.
and resonating parts of their own journey as they read mine, which is the importance of it, because we're all on a journey and of spirit, and the more we're conscious of it, the more we allow for it, the more we accept it in ourselves, the more we allow for it. But there's a lot of it's almost more taboo to bring out some mystical experiences that than to bring out that you're gay or something.
Yeah.
I mean, so a
I
lot.
did. I did that too. So there you go.
Yeah, yeah, so it's hard to
Yep.
bring our real selves out in
Absolutely.
the world
It really is.
and just be who we are.
It really is, and it's hard to be. It's harder to be an imposter. That's for sure.
Yeah.
And that was an awakening for me. Is when I realized holding back as the true self of who I am
Yes.
did not allow anyone to come forward with me as who they are,
Yes.
not to its totality. That's for sure. Um,
And
well,
so
it's
bringing that all out, bringing out really who you are
yes,
fully, bring from your heart and being who you are inside in the world. And that, all the parts of yourself and spiritual mystical experience is something very personal and close to the heart, and also a little, you little,
right,
you
right.
don't want to be considered crazy or weird, so you don't necessarily want to share it with people, you know and so here I write a book about it now finally, but there were years that I felt very, I didn't share my spiritual life with people because I didn't want to seem weird or different, but and it took, and when I was asked to teach, it was really difficult because I had to bring my inner guidance and my inner experience into the outer world, and I had created a big barrier about doing that, and but it's very powerful when that comes into presence, and it was a very powerful spiritual transformation for me to really open up and to be fully myself. And so I want other people to be able to do that. And stories are a great way to share.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, and the fact too that, you've left an imprint, and my main book, there's been others, but the one most special to my heart is one that came out in 2014, and I still have people write me and really resonate with it, and because stuff like this, it's not dated, so it's wonderful that you've left this imprint,
Yeah.
and left this mark that you never know who's going to hear about it, who's going to read it, who's going to find it. It's really
Yes.
great. It's really wonderful.
Yes. And I'm delighted to share my journey and my story with people and hope it's of help in their journey.
And
And
nobody really thought you were crazy or weird after all.
yeah, it worked out. But
Yes.
of course, society has changed along the way too.
Yes,
And
they have.
some
Yes,
of
they have.
the taboos that were there when I was in my 20s are not there now. And people are much more accepted of variations of experience and of inner guidance, which was not when I was in my 20s living in Southern Illinois, out in the middle of the cornfields, going to Carbondale, SIU, Southern Illinois University. You know, I never heard of anybody having inner guidance. I just
Oh,
heard
yeah.
of crazy people, right? That's all I
Oh,
knew.
listen,
So
I know. You're telling me. It was really, you didn't talk about it much.
yeah, so when I started getting inner guidance, I go, "Oh God, I must be crazy. I'm listening to an inner voice, an inner wisdom, and I must be crazy." But I was so in love. I saw such beauty. I saw it was like living next to Christ, It was like
Mhm.
this really holy presence, and who wouldn't be completely in love, you know?
Sure.
And to have awareness of that holy presence was really a great, great gift, but it was also challenging my reality base. And I think it can be challenging for people.
What would
So
you say is, I'm sure it could be hard about, hmm, what would you say would be one of your most mystical experiences?
oh,
I'm sure there's many, but which one kind of comes to mind or brings itself to the surface?
just what's coming to mind now was there was a period when I had many years when I was sort of getting my Ph.D. and raising my young children and my spiritual life sort of I had had profound mystical experiences. I'd seen my guru, all of that was happening. And then I had the years in between where it was very sort of mundane. And then it began to open up again. And I began to feel this incredible love. All along, my Baba was there teaching me, guiding me. I learned much of what I learned from my Baba rather than I read it in books later, but I learned it internally. And then there was a time when uh, after about 20 years of this sort of very worldly focused life, still very mystical, and still my inner guidance, but not such deep experiences, it all began to open up again.
Mm,
And Baba was indicating that that a change was occurring, and I felt this deep, deep love that was just opening up, and I would go into states that were I would look at my guru's picture and I would fall into a state of bliss, and I would just feel the depth of this love and the depth of a kind of unity with this divine figure. And then it would last for days, and then it would slowly wear away over the week after 2 or 3 days, and then these experiences began to happen more and more. And then I remember one meditation. Actually, it wasn't just when I felt this white light open in my heart chakra, and it went down my arms and into chakras in my hands where I felt this white light
Mm.
out and down through my body and out through the soles of my feet. I felt this white light, and I felt these channels of light open in my body, and I felt divine bliss. And I felt if it touched anyone, it would go into them, this light.
Ooh.
It was very powerful. And this light, this feeling of these chakras in my hands and feet, and this light lasted for about a year. It was a very powerful experience of light and divine presence and love, just in pure white light. Just, but it isn't just light; it's presence,
Yeah.
love, that divine.
Hard to put in a word.
Yeah, it's
No? Yeah.
divine,
Yes.
divine love flowing through from the heart out into the world through the palms and the soles of the feet. And that was very powerful. And that's what I found is some of these states would come sometimes for a few days, sometimes for a week or two. And this particular thing lasted for about a year. That different, they would stay for a while, and then
Mhm.
slowly they would change, they would dissipate. But that period was one where that type of thing was happening, and that was just before the very deep opening that led me into this sort of melting into my guru and feeling that flow of the Baba flow through me to give the talks and things that I give.
Mm. That's beautiful. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
It's such an amazing journey.
Yeah, it's been grace. I
Mhm.
feel that ultimately, we strive, but ultimately it's grace that brings us to the divine. But
Yeah.
that grace just is opening, and as much as you can take a few minutes to just settle and then feel your heart and let your heart open to the beauty of nature, to the love of the infinite, to that which is light and love and beauty and joy, and let it just fill your heart and be with the feeling. That's my suggestion on meditation.
Mhm.
Whatever technique you're using, you can still do that.
And, sometimes the technique overrides the ability to let go.
Yeah,
So, and that's what I've always loved about shamanism and going on the non-ordinary reality is you can't well, you can mentalize it, but you don't get very far with it. And you really learn from practicing it how your mind you want to make something a certain way or whatever. And as you were talking, I was thinking about every time I would go into the 1 week in a month into the underworld or non-ordinary reality. I'd go through cemeteries and
yeah,
ancient things and see the elders, and I'm sure you've done many of these things, but the point being that it had always been this way, and this one particular time with a question of, I don't know, it was something about what do I need to know or, how can I expand my awareness now or something. And I just thought, well, I'd go to the tree, I'd go down, I'd see my spirit horse, and I'd just go in the underworld like I always have. No, I started going up, 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 all these crystals and all this light. And there was a Christed person that came up like on a parade float and and said, "Do the work. The path is straight." With all these animals on the parade float. I mean, that was the best way I could describe it. It's like they just came up, and when I returned, and I still get put back in my perspective sometimes when it's remember, just do the work. The path is straight. without like, "No, I want the path to be over here. What do you mean?"
Yeah.
But it was a tremendous gifting for sure. Um, but that being said, when I returned, it was so bright in the room. My
Yeah.
teacher went, "What happened?" Because it was just so bright. It's like it hurt to open my eyes. It was fascinating. I'll always remember that.
I've had
Always.
I totally know what you mean. I've
Mhm.
had that with meditation a lot, and, like, I feel like there's a bright light, like, it's a dark room, that I feel like
Yeah,
there's bright
yeah,
light in the room, and
and it's very bright. I mean, it's just like nothing you can ever imagine, and my partner at the time, was coming by to pick me up for some reason, and, walked in and was not who I would call a metaphysical person. I tried that route and realized that doesn't work. My wife now is, but at the time not. And she was just like, "What in the world has happened here? It is so bright in this room." So that was significant because someone who's not in the practice could really, really feel it. Um,
wow, so she could feel the light around
yeah,
you even
yeah.
though
Even though she wasn't.
wow, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
Mhm. Yep, she
It
could really measure it,
when
yes.
when that energy, and it comes in so many different forms, like you've had these spirit guides into the underworld and into
Mhm.
there's so many different ways that the divine can come and so many different symbols and so many different ways, but oftentimes there is that light and you feel consciousness changes. It's like there's a sometimes I feel like it's like a opening in the clouds and the sun comes down, you know,
Yes,
and
yes.
it's just in that field, it's changed.
Mhm. It's so true. Well, it's been great sharing your field with you today.
Well, it's been wonderful to
It's such a beautiful presence, and I feel blessed. I'm just really grateful that you've been here, and we have put in all of the social media channels, how to get in touch with you and how people can find you on your website, and we
oh,
want to urge everybody to get your book. And I noticed too you have a YouTube channel.
I do have a YouTube channel, and
Hmm.
I have a satsangs on Saturdays, certain Saturdays of the month, and I have a newsletter where you can find out about things, and if you join my mailing list and wanna contact me for some reason or learn meditation from me or something, you can just write me a note, and I'll get back to you.
Well, all of our friends are tuning in and they're writing, "Thank you so much for sharing who you are.
It's been really a delight to be here, and thank you
It's
for
been
this.
such a blessing, such a blessing." We'll find each other on those trees.
Right.
God bless you, everyone, on this amazing journey we call life.